Hey everyone! Welcome to BarSel. This is actually my first time sharing a story with you guys, so I wanted to start with something unforgettable. And trust me, this story is going to make you say, wait, this actually happened? Because if someone turned this into a movie, I honestly don't think anyone would believe it was based on real events. But it was. And what makes this story even more disturbing is where it happened. In Medina, Saudi Arabia, the city of the Prophet Muhammad. So before we get into it, if you enjoy real mysteries, disappearances, and unbelievable true stories, make sure you like this video, subscribe to BarSel, and turn on notifications, because you definitely don't want to miss the stories coming next. All right. Let's begin. The disappearance. The story begins in 2006 in the city of Medina, Saudi Arabia. More specifically, in the busy area surrounding the Prophet's Mosque. Anyone who has visited Medina knows that the area around the mosque can be incredibly busy. People from all over the world come there. There are stores, street vendors, small businesses, and people selling everything from clothing to household items. Among them was an Afghan woman in her 40s. She had come to Saudi Arabia with her husband and children on a visitor visa. Her husband worked for a furniture business and earned only around 2,000 Saudi riyals a month. For a family with several children, that wasn't much. They needed food. They needed somewhere to live. They needed to pay for everything else that comes with raising a family. And their visitor visas eventually expired. The husband wanted to find a way to stay legally, but his financial situation made everything extremely difficult. And instead of taking his family back home, he made a decision that would eventually destroy several lives. He told his wife, "Why don't you set up a little stand near the mosque?" She asked him, "What am I supposed to sell?" He told her to sell small household items, fabrics, or whatever she could. But then he added something else. People might feel sorry for her, they might buy something, or they might simply give her money. So the woman started selling near the mosque, and she often brought her oldest daughter with her. Her name was Radia. She was only 10 years old. Radia would sit beside her mother while her mother sold fabrics to passing visitors. Sometimes people actually bought something. Other times, they simply saw a poor-looking mother with a little girl and gave them money. 5 riyals, 10, 50. Whatever they could afford. Little by little, the family managed to survive until one day, a woman approached them. She was Egyptian. She came from the direction of the mosque and stopped at the woman's stand. She greeted her and started looking at the fabrics. "How much is this one? And this one?" The Afghan woman gave her the prices. Eventually, the Egyptian woman picked 2 pieces. The total was 120 riyals. But she negotiated it down to 100. The Afghan woman was happy. At least she had made a sale that day. Then the Egyptian woman opened her purse and suddenly said, "Oh my God, I only have 50 riyals with me. The rest is back at the hotel." The Afghan woman needed the money, so she asked, "Where are you staying?" The Egyptian woman explained that she had come from Egypt with her husband to perform Umrah, and that they were staying in Medina for a few days before returning to Mecca. Then she offered a solution. She said, "Come with me to the hotel. I'll give you the rest of the money." But the mother couldn't leave her stand, so she had another idea. She pointed toward her daughter, Radia. She said, "Take my daughter with you. Give her the 100 riyals at the hotel and she'll bring the money back to me." The Egyptian woman agreed. The mother turned to her daughter. "Radia, go with her and come straight back." The little girl nodded. "Okay, Mom." and that was the last time her mother would see her for 4 years. The taxi at first, everything seemed normal. The Egyptian woman talked to Radia as they walked. She asked her age. I'm 10. She asked about her family. Radia told her she had 3 younger sisters. They kept walking and walking until Radia noticed something. They were getting farther and farther away from the area where her mother was selling. She became suspicious. She asked, Auntie, where's the hotel? The woman replied, It's close. We just need to take a taxi. Radia immediately became uncomfortable. She said, Just give me the fabric. I'll go back to my mom. But the woman reassured her. Your mother trusted you with me. Don't worry. I'll even give you 10 reals. Radia was only 10. The promise of 10 reals was enough to calm her down. Then a car pulled up. Inside was a bearded man. The Egyptian woman opened the door. Come on, Radia, get in. The little girl asked, Where are we going? The woman told her, We are going to the hotel. We'll get the money, and then I'll take you back to your mother. Radia got inside. The car drove away. But something felt wrong. She noticed strange looks between the driver and the Egyptian woman. They exchanged smiles. They whispered to each other. Radia didn't understand what they were saying, but she told herself, I'm just getting the money and going back. Then the drive kept going. 10 minutes, 20, 30. Eventually, they arrived in a poorer neighborhood on the western side of Medina. The Egyptian woman got out. Then she told Radia, Come with me. Radia said, No, I'll wait in the car. The woman insisted, Come inside. I'm worried about you staying with the driver. Radia followed her. And the moment she stepped through the door, everything changed. The bearded man grabbed her. He covered her mouth, pulled her inside, and the door slammed shut. Radia was trapped. Her mother waited back at the market. Radia's mother was still selling. 15 minutes passed, then 30. She kept expecting her daughter to come running back. Eventually, she realized something was wrong. She started asking everyone around her, Have you seen my daughter? No one had. She searched everywhere. She cried. She screamed her daughter's name. Then she ran to her husband. The family and some members of their Afghan community began searching. Hospitals, streets, stores, everywhere they could think of. But there was one thing they were afraid to do. They were afraid to go to the police. Their visas had expired. They were worried that reporting the disappearance would expose their immigration situation and possibly lead to detention or deportation. So they decided to search on their own, and that decision would cost them precious time. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. And eventually, years. 2 years passed. Then another year. There was still no sign of Radia. Eventually, the family began to believe she might be dead. They had no idea what had happened to her. But the truth was much worse. The house. After Radia was kidnapped, she was taken into a room. There were no windows, no sunlight, no way out. She didn't understand what was happening. She was terrified. She kept asking herself, Who are these people? Why am I here? What do they want from me? Eventually, the man came into the room. He asked, What's your name? Radia. How old are you? 10. Then he told her not to be afraid. And he gave her a story. He told her that the police had arrested her parents. He claimed that her entire family had been deported back to Afghanistan. Radia believed him. She was only 10 years old. She had no way of knowing whether he was lying. Then she began hearing things. Women's voices, children crying, more than one woman. Sometimes she could hear a baby's. And she started wondering, Am I inside a criminal operation? Are these people kidnapping children? She lived in fear. 6 months passed, then a year, then another. For approximately 2 years, Radia remained trapped inside that house, a child who should have been going to school, playing with friends, growing up with her family. Instead, she was locked away. Eventually, she began noticing other women inside the house. There was a Nigerian woman. There was another Egyptian woman. And there was the woman who had originally taken her from the market. Her name was Gamalat. And then the truth about the man behind everything began to emerge. The man behind it all. The man's name was Mohammed Kennedy. He had originally come to Saudi Arabia on a work visa. He worked as a teacher at a private school in Medina. His salary wasn't particularly high. Then his sister, Gamalat, contacted him from Egypt. She told him she wanted to come to Saudi Arabia. She brought 2 young girls with her. The girls were around 7 and 6 years old. According to the account of the case, Gamalat had taken the children with her without properly resolving the custody situation with their father. Once she arrived in Saudi Arabia, she discovered something. She could make money by asking people for donations. So she started going around the area near the mosque with the 2 children. She would tell strangers that she was struggling, that her husband was sick, that her money had been stolen, that she needed help getting back to Egypt. And people believed her. One person gave her 50 rials, another gave her 200, another gave her 500. On her first day, she reportedly came home with around 3,750 rials. Mohammed was shocked. He worked all day as a teacher and earned around 2,000 rials a month, and his sister had made nearly twice that in a few hours. She told him, "I told you. This is an opportunity." And that's when the scheme became bigger. The women Gamalat continued collecting money. Eventually, Muhammad told her he wanted to return to Egypt and get married, but Gamalat convinced him to stay. She told him, "I'll find you a wife here." She eventually approached another Egyptian family. There was a young woman with them. Gamalat convinced the family that she knew a suitable man. That man was Muhammad. They believed her. She took the young woman with her under the excuse that they were going to a clinic and would complete the marriage arrangements. But instead, she took her to the same house, and the woman was trapped. Muhammad then convinced her that her family had been deported. Over time, another Nigerian woman was also brought into the house. According to the case account, Muhammad used religious language and the idea of marriage to control the women. He threatened them with consequences if they went to the authorities. Fear became their prison. And then there was Radia, the youngest of them all. The child Radia had been kidnapped when she was 10. She had now spent years inside that house, and eventually, when she was around 12, Muhammad allegedly created another so-called marriage arrangement with her. A child who had been kidnapped from her mother was now being treated as his wife, and she still believed that her parents had been deported. She was terrified to speak because Muhammad had convinced the women that going to the police would only make things worse. But then, Muhammad's situation began falling apart. He lost his job. The landlord wanted his rent. They had to leave. So Muhammad came up with another plan. He told Gamalat, "We're going back to Egypt." But there was a problem. What were they going to do with the 3 women? His solution was horrifying. He planned to take them near a police station and tell them that they were undocumented. He believed the women would be detained and eventually deported. Then he and Gamalat could leave the country. So he took the women with him. They arrived near the police station. Muhammad told the women, "Go inside. I'll be right behind you." But then something unexpected happened. A police officer who had just finished his shift noticed them. He saw Muhammad repeatedly approaching the women and walking away. Something didn't look right. There were 3 women, different ages, different nationalities, and they clearly didn't look like a normal family. The officer became suspicious. He contacted the officers inside the station. He told them to go outside and find out what was happening. And the moment Mohammed saw the police, he drove away. The women were left behind. The truth finally comes out. The officers began questioning them. One said her name was Gamalat. Another said her name was Aya. Then they reached Radia. But Radia didn't want to speak in front of Gamalat. She asked the officer if she could speak to him privately. The officer agreed. And then Radia finally said the words that changed everything. "I'm kidnapped." The officer couldn't believe it. He asked, "How long have you been missing?" She answered, 4 years. 4 years. A 10-year-old girl who disappeared from beside her mother was finally standing in front of the police. Radia explained everything. She told them that the woman had taken her from her mother under the excuse of getting money from a hotel. She told them about the house, the room, the other women, and the man who had kept them there. The officers asked about her father. Radia gave them information about where he worked. They found him and asked, "Do you have a daughter named Radia?" The man's reaction confirmed everything. He said, "Yes." Then he told them, "My daughter disappeared 4 years ago." And suddenly, the missing person case that had gone cold for years had a breakthrough. The investigation. Radia and the other women were taken into protective care. Medical examinations were conducted. Investigators documented the conditions they had allegedly been living under. The women were questioned. Their families were contacted. The Egyptian woman's family was eventually located. The Nigerian woman's relatives were also contacted. And after years of uncertainty, Radia finally returned to her family, 4 years after she disappeared. The 2 young girls connected to Gamalat were also eventually reunited with their father and returned to Egypt. Gamalat was arrested, and Mohammed Gennady was brought before the court. During the investigation, he denied many of the accusations, but investigators had evidence. One of the most disturbing discoveries involved the remains of 2 infants who had died inside the house and were reportedly buried in containers on the rooftop. Muhammad reportedly admitted burying them. He also claimed that the women were legally married to him. But investigators questioned the validity of those alleged marriage documents. The trial continued for approximately a year. And eventually, the court handed down the death penalty for Mohammed Gennady and his sister Gamalat. In 2012, the sentence was carried out in Medina. And with that, one of the most disturbing criminal cases connected to the city came to an end. The part that haunts me. But honestly, the most disturbing part of this story isn't just the crimes, it's the fact that a 10-year-old girl disappeared right in front of her mother, and her family didn't know where she was for 4 years. 4 years. And one of the reasons the family hesitated to immediately report her disappearance was their fear of problems related to their immigration status. And that's something I really want to emphasize. If someone disappears, especially a child, don't wait. Don't try to handle it alone. Don't let fear stop you from asking the authorities for help. A person's safety comes first, always. And there's another lesson here. A religious appearance doesn't automatically make someone a good person. A beard doesn't make someone trustworthy. Religious words don't make someone trustworthy. Character is shown through actions, honesty, compassion, and how you treat people when nobody is watching. Sometimes, a good appearance can simply be a mask. The end. And that brings us to the end of my first story here on BarSel. Honestly, after telling you all of that, I don't even know what to say. This story was disturbing from beginning to end. If you enjoyed the way I told it, and you want more real mysteries, disappearances, and unbelievable true crime stories, make sure you like this video, subscribe to BarSel, and turn on the notifications, and tell me in the comments, what should I cover next? A mysterious disappearance? A terrifying unsolved case? Or another true story with an ending you absolutely won't see coming? Because trust me, BarSel is just getting started. I'll see you in the next story. Stay safe, and I'll talk to you soon.